how to lose and how to choose.
Vermont 911, where's your emergency? And where are you? Okay, and how long have you been having the chest pains? Okay, so are you having any trouble breathing? Okay. And do you have any cardiac history? Have you taken any nitro? Have you had any trauma? No? Sweaty? Feeling faint? Are you nauseous or vomiting? Okay, just stay calm and help will be on the way.
Well, hello, this is Linda Carbonell from Walking Through Life TV show. Today I'm coming to you from the Public Works building, and I want to introduce you to Scott Smith, who...
I am the Director of Emergency Communications here.
So you want to tell us a little bit about what that entails?
Well, I'm basically in charge of the Communications Center. We have 6 full-time dispatchers and currently 5 part-time dispatchers, which give us much time as they can. They all have full-time jobs, so it's hard to get them to work for us.
Could you tell us a little bit about what areas around that you...
We cover the town of Hartford, includes Queechee, Wilder, West Hartford, Hartford, White River Junction. We have police coverage for Norwich, and we cover the towns of Sharon, South Royalton, Ascutney, Weathersfield, Heartland, Reading, West Windsor, Windsor. So there's quite a few communities we cover.
So on a typical day or a typical week, do you know about how many calls you get for fire, police, EMT emergencies?
Total, we average about 1,100 to 1,300 calls for service, combining all together.
So that's like monthly or?
Monthly, yes.
Yeah, that's a lot per month, yeah. So when a call comes in, what happens after that call comes in? Then you dispatch which services you need?
Right. When a call comes in, we work in the blind mostly, where we depend on the callers to give us the information we need, and as dispatchers we need help ourselves, so we rely on our PowerPhone manuals right now to provide us the questions to ask the callers, to make sure that we ask all the questions and give us that we have the options. We have to offer pre-arrival instructions on medical calls and basically all calls that we have to.
And one of the things I like, because I've called 911 a couple of times, is that the person on the phone is actually able to keep you calm, or try to keep you calm.
Correct.
And keep talking, and I think that's very important. So that's another safety issue that I think might be nice to bring up, is what is it you do within that call to help somebody calm down and maybe give you more information.
A lot of calls that come in, the caller is either hysterical, they're calling because they need help, or they need to be calmed down, and everyone here is trained to take control of the caller, calm them down, and extract the information we need.
Because you need to know whether you need ambulance, fire,
Right.
police, or what the situation
Determine the
is.
type of emergency it is and send the responders that are needed.
And I just think that's important. And, like I said, I've used it a few times, and it's been very helpful for me, especially when they say, we're going to stay on the phone with you until they get them to help arrive.
Yes.
So that's really important. Mm-hmm. So I would like personally to say thank you to all of you for the work that you do.
Thank you very much.
It's a roll.
Well, Scott, now here we are exactly in front of one of your communications
Consoles, yep.
It's consults, and we're going to be speaking with Martha too. So, Martha, you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, dispatching for the agencies that Scott spoke about, police, fire, EMS, 911, can be pretty busy during the day. But I've been doing it for a number of years.
Don't be shy, you've been doing it for over 25 years.
25 years.
It must be hard when you get an emergency call in that, you know, is hard to hear and how you might be helpful to that person. So it must take a lot of courage and toughness and
There are certain calls that are more challenging than others. Certainly ones that.
Do you know which officer you saw?
Hartford Dispatch. Hi, can you hang on for just a moment? Dispatch. Hi.
This goes on
Okay.
constantly being interrupted.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
It's
Bye.
the firsthand what they.
So the girl.
Hi, thanks for holding. Can I help you? Yes.
So it was Officer William Bruno?
Can I give you a call back in
Other
like 5
times, like,
minutes?
Officer
The
Solomon
night before,
this week.
one of the dispatchers working the evening
But
shift
why don't I put you
sat
through?
down when he first came on
Yeah, I
shift.
don't think I
He couldn't
did,
get up
so,
for
but I
5
can give you a
hours
call back
because
in
he was
like
so
5
busy.
and confirm that
Wow.
with you.
Why don't I put you through to
Okay.
his voicemail?
Thanks, bye.
For the information you can.
Martha, if you can, I might have you just turn your head towards Brianna so she can.
Sure.
Thank you. Not that you can't get back right away.
Right.
Emergency.
Oh, yeah, I'll be fine.
Just a little buzzers. Hi.
I want to ask you too is what's the most challenging thing about your job?
Most challenging thing. Probably, I mean, intense situations where you don't know where the person is, where you're having to rely on 911 and mapping and having a cellular device up in this area, unlike in a city area. They've got to triangulate off of a number of towers, and you're not always going to get an exact location of where somebody might be. So you've really got to depend on your skills of being able to extract the information out from the person and getting landmarks, locations. And that can be a challenge sometimes, especially if the cell phone service is scratchy, not coming in that well. And certainly calls involving children. And those can be difficult.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have to keep your emotions
You do, yeah.
in check just so you can be helpful to
Yeah.
others. So.
Yeah, because you've got to be in control of that situation, or the person on the other end isn't going to sense that you're able to help them. So you've got to, present yourself in such a way that it's okay, we've got help coming, to gain their trust.
Right, and that's just so important. And it's the same thing when you're reporting a crime or anything else that's going on for you. And I imagine, being somebody that has a mental illness, that when you get somebody that's having a mental illness crisis, that might be one of the most difficult that you have to deal with.
It can be, and also when you're taking these calls, keeping in mind, public safety along with officer safety, determining if people have weapons, what state they're in,
So if we can we take like one example of a call, like if somebody called and they had falling in the street or something, they can't get up, somebody's calling, that needs help. What would you do with some of the things that you would be able to ask them?
As far as somebody that has fallen,
Yeah, and can't get up.
well, you're going to encourage the caller, if the caller's not the person themselves, if it's a bystander, you're going to encourage them, to have the person remain still in case if they hit their head, if there's any head injury, any back injury. You always determine if, there's any difficulty breathing, if there's any chest pain involved. In this day and age now with medical calls, we need to ask the Ebola questions. We've got to ask if they've been out of the country in the last 3 weeks and, if they've come in contact with anybody. And people get a little bit aggravated with that because they think they're silly questions, but unfortunately they're questions that we have to ask. And then you would just, encourage them to remain where they are and get help to them. And of course, as we're on the phone on 911 with them, we're at the same time inputting the information into the computer system, and we're toning out the ambulance to respond. So
it's like
we've got
multitasking.
we've got a number of things going on as we're still talking to the caller on the phone. We're typing the information in, we're toning it out, and
So that takes a lot of skills. It takes a lot of skills, I would think.
It's very hard finding someone who can sit down and do this job. It's because of the multitasking things that need to be done.
yeah, and there's periods of time when there may be one dispatcher on, more during the midnight time. But, you know, if we're in here during a midnight shift and we're dealing with that, it's not uncommon for the phones to ring on the 7-digit side. So you have to be creative and mute the phone and grab the other one and determine if that one's another emergency and prioritize the call.
Yeah. I was talking to Scott about staying on the phone with the person that needs the help
Mm-hmm.
too. That must be difficult too when you're by yourself to be able to do that when you have another call
It
coming in
can.
too. Yeah.
But usually if you explain to the person, I'm still here, I'll be right back with you, and if you have to grab another phone, if it's a radio, you can answer the radio and still be on the phone with them. And sometimes they like hearing that, because
Yep.
then they hear that, okay, they're talking to the ambulance.
Right.
The ambulance is on the road, they're on the way.
Right.
So,
That's very important. But what is I mean, when you talk about not being able to fill the positions or only having one person on when there's a need for 2 or 3, what do you have to sacrifice for that?
Your family life, because we have to, a lot of the full-time dispatchers are working a lot of overtime. Our part-timers are filling in when they can to help with the load of the hours that are vacant and need to be covered. And we average on the low, since January till now, every pay period on the low end has been 108 hours need to be covered. On the high end, it was 176 hours that need to be covered per pay period. That's a 2-week period. So it takes a toll on people. And
I can
a lot of
imagine.
times they really don't want to do the overtime, but we have no choice.
And how many full-time positions have you got right now?
We have 6 full-time dispatch positions and myself as the director.
Wow. And you've got 2 of these communication centers right here, plus
Right.
you've got,
We have third, that's a spare console over there
Yeah.
that can be staffed when we have a severe weather event going on or a critical incident going on.
Irene would be a good example
Yeah, we had-
when we dealt with
oh yeah,
Irene, and we had, at one point, we had a person sitting on the third console, and we had 2 people sitting at each of the other consoles during the high points of it. At one point, I was only answering 911. I was sitting over here, and the other person was answering the phones and radios.
wow.
And that was probably, in all the years that I had been dispatching, that was probably the most intense
I can imagine.
situation.
And I was talking to Chief Kirsten earlier about the effects of having to work overtime, the health risk and all of that. You want to talk a little bit about that, coming into the communication center?
Well, Martha's been the one that works the most overtime, and she can.
Yeah, how's that affect your everyday life when you have to work so much overtime?
It's crazy when you have kids, and when, you know, kids at home and they don't get to see you as much. You know, I have to come in at 3 in the morning, so I'm usually getting to bed by 5 o'clock at the latest. So they're not seeing me through the evening hours. And usually I'm coming in at least twice a week, if not more, depending, you know, if people are off or sick or whatever the case may be. So definitely the family time.
Yeah.
It's stressful on all the dispatchers who work full-time because they, have to hold over till 3 o'clock in the morning. And it's just adds the stress to them.
You know, and of course the stress of trying to keep up with your home life, you know, trying to laundry, cooking, you know,
Yeah,
trying to keep the house clean. And
Yeah, and I think it would affect your health too if you're like tired and doing the job and then going home and doing more. You know, I think that
Yeah.
would definitely take a toll on you physically too. I just want to say thank you for what you
Oh,
do. That's
you.
wonderful, and your concern in wanting to replace the overtime for the time being, and hopefully we can be able to help with getting somebody else to be helpful. But
Yeah.
it takes a strong person to do what you're doing, and I just
well, thank you very much.
well, thank you. That's for sure. So here we are again. This time we're in the middle section. So I want to introduce Becky.
Hi.
Okay, and Scott again. And I wanted to ask what this week is the telecommunications
This is
week?
National Telecommunicators Week.
So what does that mean? What happens during that time?
Well, it's a chance to recognize the heroes behind the scene. So, and the departments that we dispatch for, and just general public calls and tells us thanks for the job that all the dispatchers do, and they definitely deserve it. They deserve
Yeah.
more than a week.
For sure. I'm sure it gets hectic and it's a hard, very hard job to do, you know? And I will ask this just because, you know, it's nice to hear it from you guys is why this job? Why is this job important for you?
This job's important for me. I really like helping people, and I really think that this is one way that I can do it. I'm not the best on a scene necessarily, but
Yeah.
I am really good at multitasking and getting people the help they need from wherever they need it.
That's, you know, and that's what we need. We need people like you for sure. More and more. So maybe people will see this and say, "Wow, she did it. Maybe I can do it too."
Yeah, it's not just about, you know, police and fire and EMS, but we refer people to services.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. See, now this
We,
is something we can learn.
Yeah, we use 211 a lot. We refer people to the Haven or anything that we might know about going on in the area that could help somebody else. It's not just about sending an officer out to help you.
That's important to know. That's great. And of course, Scott, I want to ask you too. Why this job? Why is this so important for you?
Well, she nailed it. I mean, it's because I just want to help people, and that's what this job's about, is helping people.
And there's so many ways that everybody can help people, you know. And this job is one, and you know, and there's so many other. It's like me doing Walking Through Life, you know, just helping the community with whatever you can do. I think volunteering is important, along with having jobs like this, and more people to be able to do it. Because as we were talking, overtime is a big stress, and I'm sure it is for you too.
It's a large stress. We're starting to go out into the schools to teach the kids
Oh, nice.
too, which is something else that adds for, you know, more stress because you have to cover those shifts still, and so it's while we're trying to teach and educate people, it's still a stress, and so we're trying to get out there and be more involved in the community.
Yeah, I think this is a great way to do it too with CATV too, you know, being able to come and talk to you guys at where you are, so it's more convenient for you too. Plus let the audience see everything. So, well, Becky, I want to thank you so much for what you do, and it's comforting knowing we have you here. Hey, look who came along and stopped by. Hunter
morning.
Ginsberg.
How are
Hi,
you?
Hunter.
Good to see you.
You're the town manager here in Hartford.
I am, yes.
Do you want to let people know why you stopped by?
Well, we just stopped by to say congratulations to the staff here for National Communications Week. It's a great honor. These are the unsung heroes, the people behind the scenes that make it all work.
And I'm glad you came by because I think that's important to be
Absolutely.
recognized for what you do.
Yeah, I mean, without these guys, nothing else would work. I mean,
That's
they're
right.
the ones that
True.
piece it all together and make it possible for our staff to do their job.
Yep.
So this is where it all comes together.
Well, it's nice to see you here.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Well, hello again. This is Linda Carbonell from Walking Through Life. You just witnessed great heroes in the Public Works building, the communication department, and today is National Communication Week. So I want to say thank you for you guys for being here, for Martha and Scott and Becky, and thank you for sharing what you do. And I think it's important. And if you're out in the community, remember these are the ones that are sitting here working for you, and overtime and whatever they have to do, they're here for you. So make sure you remember these heroes. So this is Linda Carbonell saying goodbye for Walking Through Life today. But we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Walking through this life of mine, well, it's teaching me so many things, like how to love and how to lose and how to